All right, I do blame Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle, stain of humanity. Yes, Meghan, and I hope you're watching right now. I hope you're watching, Meghan, because you are the stain of humanity.
I don't think that she'll ever let Harry go, because she is so fixated on having a title that she doesn't even have or deserve anymore, right? Yeah. Technically, she's not part of the royal family. On paper, on the website, Duke and Duchess of Sussex. And I think that's her biggest.
It was a December defined by a jarring, almost cinematic contrast. On one frequency, the world was presented with the carefully curated image of Meghan Markle as the modern face of compassion. Through softly lit videos and messaging centered on healing, balance, and family warmth, a global lifestyle brand built on presumed authenticity was being rolled out to an eager audience.
Meghan Markle, as previously having been a, quote, yacht girl, there have been more revelations going viral from the past. And I want to show you this.
She was a yacht girl. That's right. It's mentioned in the book. Meghan used to entertain as a yacht.
Yet, at that exact moment, thousands of miles away from the stylized perfection of the cameras, a grim, sterile reality was unfolding that profoundly contradicted the public narrative. Halfway across the world, her 81-year-old father, Thomas Markle Sr., was facing a terrifying medical emergency.
In fact, I've seen the tapes. I've got them somewhere. God knows where now. I've got them on some.
So you've seen Nudie Rudy Meghan too?
I've seen more than one.
A sudden, life-threatening crisis had left doctors with no other option but to perform an emergency amputation of his leg. The situation was critical, the stakes absolute. While this life-or-death drama played out in a distant hospital room, the public silence from Meghan was deafening. There were no frantic transnational flights, no visible bedside vigils, not even a public statement of concern. The distance was maintained, handled quietly and coldly through layers of representatives. It was this precise contradiction, the brand of universal empathy clashing with the reality of private estrangement during a crisis, that caused the simmering narrative to explode. And crucially, this explosion wasn't ignited by the usual suspects. It wasn't the work of hostile tabloids or shadowy internet rumor mills. The ignition point came from inside the house. Thomas Markle Jr., Meghan's own brother, stepped out of the shadows. He is not a polished royal commentator or a journalist chasing a scoop. He is someone who shared a childhood home with her, observing the early architecture of her personality long before fame, titles, or high-powered PR teams intervened to reshape the story. His perspective is raw, unfiltered, and fueled by a deep sense of betrayal. He has declared that he is finished keeping secrets, announcing plans for a book that reportedly bypasses the well-trodden ground of palace drama to focus on the mysterious, unexplained chapters of Meghan's pre-royal life. The connections, the lifestyle, and the photographic evidence that has never been officially addressed. The dynamic has shifted because the call is no longer coming from outside critics. It is coming from inside the family. The resentment is palpable in his recent statements, reflecting a belief that the damage done is irrevocable. The raw anger is evident when he addresses her directly, labeling her a stain on humanity, expressing a hope that she is watching his counter-narrative unfold. He harbors a belief that she will never release her grip on Prince Harry, positing that her fixation on a title, even one she technically no longer uses officially, is too defining a characteristic. In his view, screwing up that royal connection was the monumental mistake of a lifetime, one that reveals a deep-seated obsession with status. This current wave of familial accusation isn't a new phenomenon, though many chose to ignore the initial warning signs. Long before the televised wedding bells, the subsequent palace fallout, or the global media tour, there was a distinct alarm sounded in early 2018. Just weeks before Prince Harry married Meghan, Thomas Jr. penned an open letter addressed directly to the prince. It was a document notable for its lack of subtlety or diplomatic varnish. He used blunt, uncomfortable language to describe his sister as phony, calculated, and a bully, warning Harry unequivocally that marrying her would lead to profound isolation, inevitable conflict, and long-term relational damage. At the time, the media ecosystem largely dismissed the letter as the bitter rantings of an estranged relative trying to sabotage a fairy tale. Commentators painted him as irrelevant, unstable, or desperate for a slice of the attention pie. Supporters argued it was merely noise designed to tarnish a modern romance. The warning became a punchline rather than a prophecy. However, looking back through the lens of the intervening years, what stands out about that 2018 letter is not its aggressive tone, but its chilling specificity. Thomas Jr. wasn't making vague predictions of marital trouble. He was describing deeply ingrained patterns of behavior, image management, intense control, and the systematic removal of anyone who questioned her preferred narrative. Once the wedding took place, those patterns didn't magically dissolve into the background. They accelerated rapidly. The timeline of events that followed reads like a checklist from Thomas Jr.'s warning letter. The immediate fracturing of relationship within the royal family, the dramatic and public break from royal duties, the ever-growing roster of former allies transformed into bitter enemies, and the ceaseless media warfare that seems to follow the couple regardless of their location. One by one, the outcomes he predicted unfolded in real time. This reality is uncomfortable for many to revisit now because, when stripped of emotion and viewed purely as a timeline of events, history has sided with the early critics. Thomas Jr. himself has noted this, pointing out that while he doesn't relish bringing up the past letter, it was written with a hindsight perspective on her character that has since been validated by public events. What lends credibility to Thomas Jr. now isn't just that he is speaking, but that his previous statements were proven right by the passage of time. He warned that marrying Meghan wouldn't bring stability to Harry's life, but rather isolation and constant conflict, leaving destruction in its wake. The subsequent rupture with Prince William and Kate, followed by the total severance of ties with the institution that defined Harry's entire existence, were not gradual transitions but sudden, violent breaks, just as predicted. The ensuing years of lawsuits, interviews, documentaries, and contradictory memoirs only reinforced the pattern of turning allies into adversaries and framing every disagreement as an ultimate betrayal. These weren't random occurrences or a run of bad luck. They were, as Thomas Jr. suggested, behaviors repeating themselves on a progressively larger stage. However, the upcoming revelations hint at something darker than just personality conflicts. They point toward the missing years, a stretch of Meghan's life between approximately 2004 and 2011 that remains strangely opaque in official accounts. On paper, the story is a familiar, almost cliché trope. The struggling Northwestern graduate moving to Los Angeles, battling through go-nowhere auditions and working small jobs to survive. It's a relatable broke actress narrative she has frequently repeated. Yet, a closer inspection reveals a reality that doesn't align with this humble struggle. During those exact years where details are scarce, photographs exist showing Meghan inhabiting a completely different world. Lounging on luxury yachts in the Mediterranean, docking in Monaco and southern Europe, attending exclusive parties populated by wealthy, older men far removed from the grittiness of the audition circuit. These were not snapshots from a budget backpacker vacation. They were images taken in elite, invitation-only environments that are tightly controlled and incredibly expensive to access. This is where the official story begins to fray. A genuinely broke, struggling actress does not casually gain access to billionaires' yachts. One does not stumble into ultra-wealthy European social circles by accident. Such travel, accommodation, and access require significant funding, specific introductions, and sponsorship, none of which appear in her curated backstory. The existence of these photos creates an undeniable mystery, not because the public is inventing scandal, but because the visible timeline flatly contradicts the spoken one. When people hear yacht, they often imagine a simple, glamorous vacation. But in these elite circles, yacht culture is fundamentally about access and transactional relationships. These are private environments where being present means someone powerful sees value in your presence. Introductions matter more than mere money, and entry is facilitated by connectors and sponsors. Struggling actresses don't just wander onto these decks. They are invited into a world designed for networking, companionship, and influence building among the ultra-wealthy. The continued silence from Meghan regarding who these men were, how she knew them, or how these lavish trips were funded creates a vacuum that speculation naturally fills. The catalyst for bringing these buried questions back to the surface wasn't a new photo or a tabloid headline, but the visceral reality of a hospital room. When Thomas Markle Sr. was rushed into surgery in late 2025 at 81 years old, facing amputation and life-threatening complications, the abstract nature of family feuds turned incredibly concrete. During those critical, terrifying days of pain and uncertain recovery, only one person was physically there handling the trauma. Thomas Markle Jr. He was the one speaking to doctors, managing the shock, and watching his father struggle.